You wonder, where the hell are we? What's happened to this great country? I see what's happening in the streets of the UK. I mean, things are upside down, and things need to change, and things are going to change. And I don't know if it'll be peacefully by revaluing the price of gold globally or not, or of a complete and total reset. You know, you look at the lead economic advisor to the U.S. government, this knucklehead named Jared Bernstein. He advocates for losing the reserve status. It's a privilege we can't afford. You look at the number two, Lael Brainerd, and if God forbid, you know, this current administration walks into the White House again, she'll be the head of the Fed. She's a modern monetary theorist. She worked at the Fed underneath Powell. She developed the CBDC with MIT, the Boston Fed. She ran Point for Fed Now, which came out 8 months ago, which is a instant settlement system backed by the Fed, like Venmo or Zelle. And, you know, who knows? She would like to see a reset. She would like to issue a CBDC. Maybe they can do it peacefully. I don't know. But to your point about the West not settling anymore, I mean, look at the $4 premium in silver to the LBMA and the COMEX price that we've seen forever on the Shanghai Exchange, which over the last 100 days, the volume has increased nearly 200%. And the combined volume of the Shanghai Metals and Futures Exchange now supersedes the COMEX, making it the number 2 most transacted platform on the planet behind the LBMA. We're beginning to see that these exchanges are getting more and more legitimate. And at some point, the Western system will be viewed for what it is, a Ponzi scheme. You can only manipulate a market or push a market in the direction that it is going for an extended period of time by pushing in the direction it's going. You can't hold back global demand, and especially global demand that is being orchestrated by the central banks, not in concert perhaps with the Fed. So times are different. You know, most of my career, Andrew, no one stood for delivery. But these countries now, which back when I started doing this, were many of them third world, are now sophisticated, coordinated, wealthy, and motivated. And they understand they don't need to drop bombs in the United States or in the UK to win. They just need to stand for delivery and buy all of the world's commodities. I saw a report that came out of the UK where the UK said, hey, listen, we're kind of screwed. All of our natural resources, we're reliant on other countries like the BRICS nations. And that's true. And if you look at what's happening right now in the United States, we're selling our treasuries largely to the UK. One broke nation selling their debt to another broke nation, taking the proceeds that we sell our treasuries to you folks for to pay the interest on the debt that's already outstanding and take what little is left extra to buy commodities across the globe from the BRICS nations, who take those dollars and buy gold, which keeps going higher, and gold, which will be the backing of a new system. So they're not buying treasuries, they're not stockpiling dollars. This little by little by little by little, then all at once, it's going to happen. It's logarithmic decay. I don't know what triggers it, but I think it's never been more clear to me that this is a path we are heading on. And is it peaceful through gold revaluation and dollar devaluation, or is it chaotic with an all-out dumping globally of dollars and treasuries, something called Operation Sandman, where they all agree to dump dollars and treasuries at a certain point and blow up the entire system, the byproduct of which would be interest rates spiking to compensate for that hyperinflation, as everyone who's stockpiled dollars for 50 years dumps dollars and they come home. I don't know, but I do know that if you are not a contrarian, you're damn well destined to be a victim. And if you keep all your money in dollars, you're going to go broke. That I do believe. I don't know when, but I think the logic is pretty easy to follow if indeed you pay attention.
As we navigate the turbulent waters of the current global economic landscape, it's hard not to wonder how we got here. What happened to the stability that once defined the Western economies, particularly the United States? The streets of the UK are filled with unrest, and the economic indicators paint a grim picture. It seems like everything is upside down, and the need for change is more pressing than ever. The question is, will this change come peacefully through a revaluation of gold, or are we headed for a complete and chaotic financial reset? Consider the key players at the helm of the U.S. economy today. Jared Bernstein, the lead economic advisor to the U.S. government, has openly advocated for relinquishing the U.S. dollar's reserve currency status. He argues that this privilege is something the country can no longer afford. This perspective is alarming, especially considering the implications for the global financial system. If the U.S. dollar loses its status as the world's reserve currency, the ripple effects would be catastrophic, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. Then there's Lael Brainerd, the number 2 at the Federal Reserve, who might very well become the next Fed chair if the current administration remains in power. Brainard is a known proponent of modern monetary theory, MMT, a controversial economic framework that essentially advocates for unlimited money printing by the government. She has also played a pivotal role in developing the central bank digital currency CBDC initiative in collaboration with MIT and the Boston Fed. This CBDC, which would allow for instant settlement of transactions much like Venmo or Zelle, but backed by the Federal Reserve, could pave the way for unprecedented government control over the economy. But what happens if this financial experiment goes awry? What if the US government's push towards a digital currency and continued money printing leads to the collapse of the current financial system? We're already seeing signs that the Western financial system is under immense strain. Take the silver market, for example. For years, we've seen a persistent premium on silver in the Shanghai Exchange compared to the prices on the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, and the COMEX in the US. This discrepancy is a clear indicator that the West's manipulation of precious metals markets is losing its grip. Over the past 100 days, the volume of transactions on the Shanghai Metals and Futures Exchange has surged by nearly 200%. This increase now places the Shanghai Exchange ahead of COMEX, making it the second most transacted metals platform globally, right behind the LBMA. This shift is not just a statistical anomaly, it's a sign that the global financial landscape is changing. As these Eastern exchanges gain legitimacy and volume, the Western financial system's credibility continues to erode. This process, the slow, steady erosion of confidence in the dollar and the Western financial system, is what I call logarithmic decay. It happens gradually, little by little, until it reaches a tipping point. Then all at once, everything changes. The system collapses, and those who are not prepared are left scrambling. The question is, will this transition be peaceful through a managed revaluation of gold and a corresponding devaluation of the dollar? Or will it be chaotic with an all-out dumping of dollars and treasuries by countries around the world? There's a theory circulating about something called Operation Sandman, where over 100 countries have allegedly agreed to simultaneously dump US dollars and treasuries at a predetermined time, effectively collapsing the system. If this were to happen, the immediate effect would be a massive spike in interest rates as the US government scrambles to attract buyers for its debt. The resulting hyperinflation would decimate the purchasing power of the dollar, leading to widespread economic turmoil. Given these potential outcomes, it's clear that those who continue to hold all their wealth in dollars are on a path to financial ruin. The smart money is already moving into assets that will retain value in a crisis, namely gold and silver. The central banks, which are the most well-informed and well-funded traders on the planet, have been buying gold at a record pace. They are preparing for a future where gold, not the US dollar, is the bedrock of the global financial system.
In every interview I did over that time period, I said it's crap. First of all, my entire career, I've been doing this for 34 years. And I can remember back in the day, everyone said China lies about the amount of gold that they have or produce because their numbers stayed somewhere near 1,200 tons forever. They never updated it. And they've been producing between 300 and 500 metric tons a year forever alone. But they're the largest producers. They're the largest importers. And I said it's a bunch of nonsense. If the commercial banks that work by proxy for the PBOC are buying gold from the refiners in South Africa and Switzerland, I don't think they're telling the IMF how much they bought. If on behalf of the PBOC, if they are buying gold that's not 995 pure or 995 pure or less, they're not telling the IMF how much they're buying. You had the head of the IMF come out and say that their numbers are fugazi, that they're not right, that they are understating it. You had the lead analyst for the Bank of Montreal say the same exact thing. And then there was just a report that came out that said because the bullion banks take care of the gold transport for the PBOC, shipments from London to Beijing are disclosed in UK customs data. And the customs data reveals that the PBOC continued to buy gold in May. Yeah, it was gaslighting to drive the price down 100%. And I think, indeed, if you think about it, why the hell would they be open and forthright? If indeed we are moving to a system that will have gold behind it, like the unit, Why would they ever want to tell anyone how much they own? And look at the way that we in the United States do not disclose how much gold we have. Supposedly we have 8,300 metric tons, yet it hasn't been audited since 53. And when Ron Paul asks to audit our own gold, it gets turned down. So, I think it's a situation where they have every vested interest, shall we say, in not being forthright about it. And I think it's a bunch of nonsense that the Western media runs with this, because after 18 months of recording purchases, go back and look at what happened way back when. They never updated their numbers. And so this is a deal, as you mentioned, of complete and total gaslighting. And look what it did to the price. And that's the idiocy of the Western investor who does things reactionary instead of being proactive, seeing things for what they are, understanding that in the end, the numbers will play out. Being so reactionary means you'll never win in investing, because by the time you are reacting, the big money has already positioned themselves. And so this is why so few people ever succeed in investing, because they are reactionary instead of trusting the numbers and understanding that this is all noise. You just have to look at the end game. And the end game is the dollar's in big trouble. We are heading for a very bumpy road. And you can see it by the fact that the most well-funded, but more importantly, well-informed traders in the world, the central banks who are being told probably by the BIS what is coming, have been buying gold at a rate that no one has ever seen before. And you know how they're doing it? The reason that all of this is our own stupidity in the UK and the United States, because we suppress the hell out of the price of gold and silver on the LBMA and on the COMEX, that allows these large institutions to run cover, to under the cover of suppression, to stand for delivery. And that's the difference, is that, most of my career, no one stood for delivery. Now they are. That's how they beat us at the game. And you can see it by the amount of deliveries coming off the LBMA, coming off the COMEX. You can see it if you just pay attention, but you got to dig. And the Western media is doing such a disservice to the public by not telling them what's happening, because you can't get out of the way of what you don't see coming. And I would say to you, something like this could go from a little trickle to bang, just like that. Yeah. If indeed they do announce, gold is tier 1.
As we delve deeper into the intricacies of the current global financial shift, it becomes increasingly apparent that the West is sleepwalking into a crisis of its own making. The central banks of the world, particularly those in the BRICS nations, are quietly amassing gold reserves at an unprecedented rate. This move is not just a hedge against inflation. It's a strategic positioning for a future in which gold, not fiat currencies, will underpin the global financial system. One of the most significant developments on the horizon is the upcoming BRICS summit, where key figures like Dilma Rousseff, Sergei Glazov, and Vladimir Putin have already hinted at the introduction of a new currency. This currency, potentially backed by gold, is set to be ratified in a special meeting in September, with plans for a rollout in October. Unlike a traditional fiat currency, this new unit would be a settlement cryptocurrency traded over the Bridge platform, allowing BRICS nations to maintain monetary autonomy while backing their currency with a tangible asset, gold. This move makes perfect sense in the context of the current global economic environment. As the Western financial system continues to inflate away the value of its currencies through excessive money printing and debt accumulation, the BRICS nations are positioning themselves as the stewards of a more stable and reliable system. By backing their currency with gold, they are effectively insulating themselves from the inevitable collapse of the dollar and other fiat currencies. Moreover, the strategic importance of gold is further underscored by the fact that over 40 countries have repatriated their gold from the Bank of England and the New York Fed. Historically, these institutions provided access to the COMEX and LBMA, allowing countries to trade in the global metals markets. However, as trust in the Western financial system wanes, these nations are bringing their gold home, securing their wealth within their own borders. This shift is not just about physical security, it's about ensuring that they have the necessary assets to back their currency in the event of a global financial reset. The increasing volume on the Shanghai Metals and Futures Exchange is another clear indicator of this shift. As mentioned earlier, the volume on this exchange has surged by nearly 200% over the last 100 days, surpassing that of COMEX and becoming the second most influential metals exchange globally. This trend is likely to continue as more countries and institutions recognize the legitimacy of these Eastern exchanges and the manipulation that has long plagued the Western markets. But what happens when these manipulations are exposed for what they truly are? A massive Ponzi scheme. The Western financial system has been propped up by the illusion of stability, maintained through the manipulation of precious metals prices and the suppression of any information that could disrupt the status quo. However, this illusion is starting to crumble, and when it does, the consequences will be severe. At that point, the price of gold and silver will no longer be dictated by the paper markets in the West, but by the physical demand in the East. The real price of these metals will be revealed, and it will be far higher than what we've seen in the manipulated markets of the LBMA and COMEX. This isn't just speculation, it's a historical inevitability. Every manipulation, no matter how sophisticated, eventually fails. When that happens, those who have positioned themselves correctly will see their wealth preserved, while those who trusted in the system will face financial devastation. Let's not forget the role of the media in all of this. The Western media has been complicit in perpetuating the lies and misinformation that have kept the general public in the dark about the true state of the global economy. Instead of educating the public about the risks associated with fiat currencies and the benefits of holding tangible assets like gold and silver, the media has focused on short-term market moves and superficial economic indicators. This has left the average investor unprepared for the coming financial storm. For those who have been paying attention, the signs are clear. The most well-informed traders in the world, the central banks, are not just buying gold, they are doing so in record quantities. They are also repatriating their gold, removing it from the Western financial system and securing it within their own borders. This is not a coincidence. It's a calculated move to protect their wealth in the face of an impending financial collapse. The manipulation of the gold and silver markets by the West has allowed these central banks to accumulate these precious metals at artificially low prices. But this manipulation can only last so long. The recent surge in physical deliveries from the LBMA and COMEX is a sign that the game is changing. More and more entities are standing for delivery, demanding the physical metal rather than settling in cash. This is the ultimate test for the paper markets. And as more participants demand delivery, the ability of these markets to maintain the illusion of stability will be severely tested. In the end, the key takeaway is this. If you continue to hold all your wealth in dollars or any other fiat currency, you are setting yourself up for financial ruin. The smart money is moving into gold and silver, not because they expect immediate returns, but because they understand the long-term value of these assets. They are positioning themselves for a future where fiat currencies are worth little more than the paper they're printed on, and tangible assets like gold and silver are the true stores of wealth. As we move forward, it's essential to stay informed, think critically, and act decisively. The time to prepare for the coming financial reset is now, before the masses wake up to the reality of the situation. Whether the transition to a new system is peaceful or chaotic, those who are prepared will weather the storm, while those who are not will be left scrambling in the aftermath. In the words of Warren Buffett, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Now is the time to be greedy with gold and silver, before it's too late.
Stay informed about the latest developments shaping the precious metals markets with regular updates from the Finance Daily team. Not only that, but as a subscriber, you'll also receive timely silver and gold price notifications and early access to groundbreaking news unavailable to the general public. Join our free gold and silver newsletter today, link in the description.